Welcome to another deep dive. And today we're going to be looking at a fascinating guy, William Walker Atkinson.
Oh, yeah.
He's a writer you might not know by name,
Right.
but he had some really interesting forward-thinking ideas about the power of the mind.
He really did. And it's remarkable just how much he wrote. I mean, covering topics like practical psychology and mental training.
Yeah.
And he even got into like esoteric concepts like clairvoyance.
Oh, yeah, and it's kind of like he was
Pretty wild.
tapping into something fundamental about human potential.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy?
What's that?
He did this stuff over a century ago.
I know. It's really like he was ahead of his time in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and we've got a few of his key works right here with us,
Oh, cool.
like Raja Yoga,
Yeah.
Clairvoyance and Occult Powers,
Right.
and the Hindu Yogi Science of Breath.
Those are some pretty fascinating titles.
I know, looking at these, you can see it's quite a mix, right?
Yeah.
Like from self-improvement to,
To the supernatural almost.
yeah, almost, right?
Yeah.
But I think what ties all of these works together is Atkinson's unwavering belief in the power of thought.
Yeah, definitely. Whether he's talking about character building or exploring psychic abilities, it always comes back to that core idea that our minds have a huge influence on our reality.
It's like he's saying we're not just, passively receiving experience, but we're actively creating our own lives.
Exactly.
Which is a powerful concept. And actually, it resonates with a lot of modern thinking, too.
Oh, totally. In areas like psychology and self-help, all that stuff.
Yeah. And for Atkinson,
Yeah.
the mind wasn't just this abstract concept.
Right.
It was a force to be understood, trained, and harnessed.
And he actually gave us some pretty practical methods for doing that.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, like in Raja Yoga, for instance, he goes deep into the nature of the eye,
Okay.
encouraging readers to observe their own consciousness objectively.
So instead of getting kind of swept away in the, whirlwind of thoughts and emotions,
Right.
he's saying we can kind of step back and be aware of the I that's experiencing it all.
Exactly.
Have you ever tried that?
Tried what?
To detach and observe your own thoughts?
Yeah.
Almost as if they belong to someone else.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a challenging practice.
Yeah,
But that's the kind of mental training Atkinson was all about.
I see.
He even takes it a step further,
Oh, so
connecting this individual I to a universal I,
interesting.
suggesting this profound interconnectedness between all beings.
Wow.
He really believed that recognizing that connection could allow us to tap into this greater wisdom and power.
That's a pretty deep concept, and it really makes you wonder if our emphasis on individualism today might actually be kind of limiting us.
Yeah, I think so.
I think what I find fascinating is how Atkinson blends this spiritual philosophy with very practical advice.
Yeah, totally. And Raja Yoga, he talks about character building and how we can shape our personalities
Oh, wow.
by consciously choosing our thoughts and mental images.
So it's like he's saying, don't just daydream about success.
Right. Visualize it. Feel it. Make it real in your mind.
That sounds a lot like what we call visualization today, or manifestation.
Yeah.
But Atkinson was talking about this over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how many of these, modern self-help concepts
Right.
were actually inspired by his work.
It's really possible. He was definitely a pioneer in a lot of ways.
And then he goes into, the more mysterious realm of psychic abilities
Right.
and clairvoyance and occult powers.
Mhm.
But even there, he approaches those topics with a surprisingly grounded perspective.
He does.
Okay, I gotta admit, when I saw that title,
Yeah.
I thought things are about to get weird.
Uh-huh.
But you're saying he doesn't present these abilities as supernatural phenomena?
Not really. He suggests that they're more like natural extensions of our senses,
Okay.
and that with the right training, anyone can potentially develop them.
Interesting.
He describes different types of clairvoyance,
Like what?
including premonition, which is, knowing something before it happens, and psychometry, which is sensing information about an object just by touching it.
So he's not just talking about, fortune tellers and crystal balls.
Oh, wait.
He's suggesting there might be a scientific basis for these experiences.
Yeah, and he offers some evidence and examples to support these claims.
Oh, really? Like what?
He shares these intriguing anecdotes like the story of a doctor who had this dreamlike vision that predicted details of a future patient visit.
Huh. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, and he also introduces the concept of the Akashic records.
Akashic records.
Yeah, it's like this universal archive of every event, thought, and emotion that has ever occurred.
The Akashic records, that sounds like something out of a science fiction novel.
I know, right?
But are these records physically existing somewhere?
Well, Atkinson theorized that they exist on a higher plane of reality, where past, present, and future kind of exist simultaneously.
Whoa.
And he believed that with training and practice, you can tap into these records and access information beyond your ordinary senses.
So even when he's exploring these like far out ideas, he tries to ground them
He does.
in a framework that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not about mystifying things.
Right.
He was genuinely trying to reach for a deeper understanding of human potential
Yeah.
and the nature of reality.
I think so. It's
Yeah.
like this drive to understand that makes Atkinson so fascinating. You know, he doesn't just like lay down the law. He actually encourages us to question, explore, experiment for ourselves.
Yeah, he really does.
He even goes into the practical stuff
Go.
in the Hindu yogi science of breath.
Oh, the Hindu yogi science of breath?
Yeah.
That title alone is really intriguing.
I know, right?
What exactly did Atkinson find so fascinating about breath work?
Well,
I mean, we all breathe, right?
yeah.
It seems pretty basic.
It does seem basic, but Atkinson saw breath as more than just biology, you know?
Yeah.
It's a powerful tool, he said, for influencing our physical, mental, even spiritual states.
So it's not just about getting more oxygen into our lungs. There's a deeper connection between breath and consciousness.
Exactly. He was really into yogic practices,
Okay.
and he explained how yogis use certain breathing techniques
Yeah.
to get to these heightened states of awareness and well-being.
Interesting. Have you ever tried any of that?
I have.
Really?
Yeah.
Does it live up to the hype?
You know, I've experimented with it, and there's definitely something to it.
Yeah.
Even just a few minutes of focused breathing can really change how you feel.
Wow.
But Atkinson goes beyond just relaxation.
Okay.
He suggests that mastering breath control can unlock hidden potential within us.
It's like he's saying we can literally breathe our way to a better life.
Kinda?
That's a simple idea, but with huge implications.
Yeah, it is.
This focus on practicality seems to be a theme with Atkinson.
Definitely.
He doesn't just explore these abstract ideas. He wants to give people tools they can use in their daily lives.
Totally. And that's really clear in his book, How to Read Human Nature.
Okay, how to read human nature.
Yeah, in it, he talks about how to interpret people's character and personality through their
Romantic.
appearance and their behavior.
So he's talking about body language and facial expressions.
Yeah, kinda.
Is this like a proto-lie detector test?
Uh-huh.
You know, where you can tell if someone's lying based on like a twitch of their nose or something?
No, it's a little more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Atkinson thought that our inner thoughts and feelings show up in subtle physical ways.
Uh-huh.
So he gives examples like the shape of someone's forehead,
Oh, wow.
the set of their jaw, even the way they walk,
Hmm.
and suggests that these things can reveal underlying personality traits.
Wait, so you're telling me I can analyze someone's personality by the shape of their forehead?
Oh.
That sounds a little bit like phrenology to me.
You know, it's important to remember that Atkinson was writing in a different time,
Right.
and some of his ideas haven't aged that well.
Yeah.
But there is some truth to what he's saying.
Right.
Our thoughts and emotions really do affect things like our posture, our facial expressions, even the way we carry ourselves.
So while we can't like read someone's entire personality from their forehead,
Right.
there are these subtle cues we can pick up on.
Yeah, if you pay attention.
It's like a subconscious language
Totally.
that we're all speaking through our physical presence.
Exactly. And Atkinson encourages us to become more aware of that language,
Yeah.
both in ourselves and in others.
Interesting.
He believed that understanding human nature
Uh-huh.
could lead to better relationships, more effective communication, even greater success in life.
So this idea of using mind power
Mm-hmm.
to achieve practical outcomes
Right.
seems to be like a recurring theme in his work.
Yeah, definitely.
Did he ever write specifically about success?
Oh, yeah, he did in Nuggets of New Thought.
Okay.
He outlines his principles for thinking positively
Mm-hmm.
and achieving success in life.
Cool.
He emphasizes desire as a driving force,
Right.
but also the need for persistent effort and action.
So it's not just about like wishing and hoping. It's about taking concrete steps towards your goals.
Exactly. But he definitely puts a lot of emphasis on the mental side of things, you
Yeah.
know,
Okay.
like the power of belief and visualization.
Because he believed that our thoughts create our reality?
He uses the analogy of a seed.
Okay.
You plant the seed of your desire,
Ah,
but then you got to nurture it with action persistence and believing in its potential to grow.
that makes a lot of sense. It's like having a vision board, but then actually doing the work
Yeah,
to make those visions a reality.
exactly.
He seems to have been a big believer in visualization.
Oh, he was in thought culture.
Okay.
He gives exercises for strengthening the imagination and using mental pictures to achieve certain things.
Oh.
He even talks about the power of suggestion,
Okay.
both from ourselves and from other people.
So he's saying the messages we tell ourselves
Right.
and the influences we surround ourselves with
Yeah.
can shape our beliefs and behaviors.
Exactly. He suggests that by choosing our thoughts carefully and being aware of the suggestions we accept, we can create a more positive and fulfilling reality.
Wow. And he applies these principles
He does.
to business and persuasion
Yeah,
in the Psychology of Salesmanship.
that's right.
He wrote a book on sales.
He did?
That seems like such a leap from psychic abilities and the Akashic records.
I know, it's pretty interesting.
What made him write about that?
Well, it might seem like a shift, but it all goes back to his belief in the power of the mind.
Okay.
He thought that by understanding how potential buyers think, salespeople could tailor their approach and be more successful. But he stresses doing so ethically.
So it's not about like manipulating people or using sneaky tactics.
No, not at all. It's about building genuine rapport with customers,
Okay.
understanding what they need, and then presenting your product or service in a
Yeah.
way that connects with their values and desires.
So it's about aligning your offering with the customer's needs and aspirations,
Right.
presenting it in a compelling way, and building trust and credibility.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how he takes these mind power principles and applies them to something so practical.
Yeah. It makes sense when you think about it. Sales is all about influencing thoughts and decisions.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, from exploring the eye to breath control
Right.
to reading people's personalities,
Yeah.
even applying mind power to sales.
It's a lot.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's clear that Atkinson had a really deep understanding of human nature and how the mind works.
What's really impressive is how well he explains these complicated ideas.
Yeah.
He writes in a way that makes these concepts accessible to anyone.
He's like a master teacher for the mind,
Yeah.
giving us exercises and tools to strengthen our mental muscles.
But he doesn't want us to just follow his instructions blindly.
Right.
He encourages critical thinking and figuring things out for yourself.
And what's really remarkable is that he was writing about all this over 100 years ago,
I know.
and his ideas still feel relevant today.
It's true. He really was a visionary. I mean, he kind of predicted a lot of concepts that are popular now,
Yeah.
like personal development and mindfulness and even energy psychology.
It's like he was tapping into something universal about human potential,
Yeah.
something that goes beyond time and cultural trends.
Yeah, I think so.
What's interesting to me, though, is that Atkinson doesn't just focus on individual growth.
Right.
He also emphasizes the importance of like interconnectedness and living in harmony with the universe.
That's a good point that part of his work doesn't get as much attention.
Yeah. And he saw self-development not as a selfish pursuit,
Mm-hmm.
but as a way to better understand ourselves and our place in the cosmos.
It's not just about getting ahead.
Um,
It's about evolving our consciousness.
Yeah, and realizing that we're all connected.
Exactly.
That's a pretty profound idea, and it kind of resonates with a lot of spiritual traditions.
Totally.
Atkinson believed that as we work on our mental and spiritual selves,
Yeah.
we contribute to not just our own well-being, but to the betterment of all humanity.
He did.
He saw the potential for human evolution, not just physically,
Right.
but in terms of consciousness, too.
That's a hopeful message.
It is, especially in a world that often feels divided and chaotic.
Yeah.
But, for our listener who's been on this deep dive with us,
Yeah.
what's the takeaway?
Well, the great thing about Atkinson's work is that it's full of practical stuff you can actually use.
Like what?
Well, if you're interested in the power of the mind, try experimenting with it,
Okay.
Practice the Yogi complete breath. Pay attention to your thoughts and try to make them more positive.
Mm-hmm.
Explore visualization.
Yeah.
Become more aware of your emotions and how they affect your body.
He's like a personal trainer for the mind.
Yeah, kinda.
He gives us these exercises and tools to strengthen our mental muscles.
But he doesn't want us to just follow his instructions blindly.
Right.
He wants us to question and test things out and adapt these ideas for ourselves.
So he gives us a framework,
Yeah.
but it's up to each person to find what works best for them. So for our listener who's been with us on this journey, here's something to think about.
Okay.
What concept from Atkinson really resonated with you? And why was it visualizing success, mastering breath control, or maybe the Akashic records?
Whatever sparked your interest, I encourage you to explore it more,
Yeah.
Pick up one of Atkinson's books, a lot of them are online,
Right.
and just dive into his world of thought power, mental training, and esoteric wisdom.
You might find that Atkinson's ideas, even though they were written over 100 years ago,
Yeah.
still have the power to change your life today.
That's the amazing thing about his work.
Well, thanks for joining us on this fascinating deep dive into the mind of William Walker Atkinson.
It was fun.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those minds engaged.